You're welcome back, and many thanks for staying with us. Now, if you check on his Facebook profile, it's a tall list of places where he has worked, including the BBC, the United Nations, and of course, the office of the president. I'm talking about Ben Dotse Malor. In 2014, he joined the presidency as spokesperson and communications advisor to President John Mahama. After a year, he returned to the UN, where he is chief editor, UN News, New York. Well, guess what? He's in the country for a homecoming ceremony at his alma mater, Keta Secondary School. He joins me now in the studio. Uncle Ben, you're welcome.
Thank you.
It's so good to see you after, what, 2 years?
Really?
Yes, looks like.
My pleasure to be here.
Okay.
Thanks for having me.
Good to have you. Let's start with Jolali,
Okay.
Keta Secondary School, where you've been sharing your story with young people there. You've been telling them about your inability to get your English correctly, and
yes.
how you got through that, and then to become someone who's working at the BBC. I mean, I'm sure that there are a lot of young people watching us, and they'll be interested to have a summary of this story that you've been sharing with them, that it can inspire them as well.
Okay. So yesterday, the 27th of February, was the 64th speech and prize giving day, as well as Founders Day.
Okay.
The headmaster, Mr. Sedan Ukwao, wanted me to be the keynote speaker to share some of my own experiences. And yes, it's the truth. I gave them 3 confessions. I was teasing them that they were not Catholic priests, but so I gave them one confession in particular, which was that I couldn't speak English very well when I entered Kitasco. I was poor at spoken English. Written English, I could do well, pass exams. But as a senior of mine, Terry Amuzu, said, you threw bombs. Or in Ewe, they will tell you you've broken a pot. And when they tease you, you don't want to speak English again. and Kitasco at that time had students mainly coming from Accra.
Okay.
So the lingua franca of Kitasco was actually Ga.
Oh.
Yeah, if you didn't speak Ga, you didn't go places.
I see.
So even though I had never come to Accra, I was learning Ga in Kitasco.
Okay.
So from not being able to speak English very fluently to the point where I left Kitasco after Form 5. Sixth form in Maoli was good, and I picked up in English. And then the long and short of it is that I ended up at the BBC, presenting programs, keeping on improving by the grace of God.
Right. So you ended up at the BBC, and how would you say you made it there, so that you can inspire these young people who are watching you? How did you make it? You just...
The big lesson there, which I shared with the students in Keta Secondary School yesterday, was you may be very poor at some subjects at this stage in your educational career. As long as you're working hard, as long as you're not lazy, as long as you're not spending too much time on some frivolous pursuits, you are engaged in making yourself better.
Right.
When you fail, or when you're not doing well, don't go hard on yourself.
Okay.
And one of the points I stated was, don't be afraid to fail.
Okay.
You know, some of us came from homes where you have to get everything right all the time, pass all your exams.
Yeah.
But I have never found any man, any woman of greatness who achieved anything, whether Oprah Winfrey, Mark Zuckerberg, or Bill Gates, who did not experience failure of one type or the other.
Right.
I'm saying this in particular because I came into Ghana Thursday night, and I'm reading and hearing from the news that one student probably did not do well in an exam and killed herself. And that should not happen. We need to get to the point where people are not blasé about failing. You work hard, you give it your best, but when you don't hit the mark, just step back. Let somebody encourage you. Let a friend, a brother, or somebody you are connected to encourage you to bounce back.
Try again.
Many great business people, many achievers suffered failure, but they bounced back.
That's obviously leads me to the next question, which is about your passion about student leadership and leadership that works, that makes a huge impact. That's something that most of us, especially here at Joy News, can attest to. You keep tagging us in opportunities, even in the UN, opportunities for further education on Facebook, etc. We know also that you are a Reverend Minister. How does it all work out
My
for you?
main job is at the United Nations.
Okay.
On the side, I assist in Victory Bible Church International, the branch that is in the Bronx in New York.
Okay.
But my main job is at the UN, and like you said, many times when there are opportunities for job openings, for scholarships, and for competitions that people can...
Fellowships,
yes. I want to put it there. That is what my Facebook is for.
Okay.
So, yeah, the opportunities that I would have loved to be exposed to. And I'm hoping that through that people will get the chance to say, I applied for this fellowship,
okay,
and I managed to get through. It may not necessarily be through me, or applied for this job I didn't know was available, and I got in. I have benefited. I benefited from many people assisting me.
Okay.
From being in Legon. And I mentioned one thing yesterday to the students in Qatar Secondary School, my old school. We must also learn to learn.
Right.
I have two good guys, one of them in Canada now. The other is a bishop in the church of Mr. Ajinasare, Reverend Ajinasare. One of them told me that the best way he was getting good grades in French was that after we finished school in the afternoon, he would go home, sit on the beach in Qatar, and memorize the French textbook. At that point in my career, I didn't believe that I could memorize. And he was getting 95% and stuff like that. And he was kind enough to teach me how to learn the subject. I started memorizing, right. And I also caught up with him. Another taught me that during the long vacation, pick up a textbook, a mathematics textbook from the library, go home with it. I said, oh, is that possible? He said, yeah, that's what I did to score well in maths. So I took that during the long vacation, and then I would go practice the questions in the book and look for the answers at the back, which Innocent Wanya taught me. Wow. And then I caught up. So sometimes you are good, but you have to learn something.
Learn to learn.
How to just get around a subject and be an expert. Okay. So I'm into that, and I like leadership. I think leadership is something that is very paramount. I'm a big believer in the kind of leadership Kwame Nkrumah provided, lessons from Kwame Nkrumah, leadership where this man, Kwame Nkrumah, when I was at the BBC, a competition, continent-wide competition was organized, and people from all over the continent voted for him as the African of the millennium. Right. And today, I tell people when I drive around Accra, nobody shows me the big mansions he built for his children, even though he's worked enough to build that, or the large plots of land he kept for himself. If it were not for Kwame Nkrumah, some of us probably speaking bad English would be bad enough, but we wouldn't have even been able to speak the English because of his educational policies. And you won't be able to speak English so much so that the president of Ghana would want to bring you into his government, not just as an observer, but as an advisor and in the position of communication, which is a very interesting one. A lot of people would want to hear you speak about your coming back home in 2014 as an advisor to the president. Tell us a bit about it. It was a huge privilege. It was a fantastic experience. It had its ups and downs. I came with the basic notion of dying a little, serving the president for him to succeed. And the way I put it is this. I'm a Christian. I believe in practical faith, that if in helping the president at that time to succeed means that maybe a single mother somewhere in Donkokrom or in the Afram Plains is able to send their daughter to school, and that daughter becomes somebody very important in society or even in the world, and then they wake up in the morning and say, we thank you, God, for what you've done, then everything has linked up for me. Right. You must serve in a way that has or creates impact in the lives of people. Okay. It's not about pen pushing. So I came to serve the president. I came to offer whatever expertise I had acquired from my years at the BBC, my expertise in the area of communication and information, to just make sure that we excel. I believe in excellence. And one of your former colleagues here, Komla Dumo, was someone who I related to in a way where we pushed each other for excellence. So for me, excellence is a passion. Excellence, particularly in leadership,
Right.
and serving with leadership.
So that was why you came. Yours was to
That was my
to
desire.
serve. Your
And
desire.
that remains my desire.
That was your
I believe
desire.
every
Were you
Ghanaian,
poached by the president?
Was I?
Because you were working in the UN. Did he poach you? I mean, he gave you a mouth-watering...
You see, you work with words. Poach is too strong a word.
Okay.
He requested that I should come and support and serve, and that is how I came.
Okay.
Yeah.
What you spoke about ups and downs, that
Yeah.
there were, good times,
Yeah.
there were bad times.
Yeah.
I'm interested to know the bad times, that it will inspire me as a young person who's also intrigued about leadership.
Okay.
That what were the bad sides and what did you learn from it? How did you deal with it?
There were times where, coming from a place where I had served the 66th president of the UN General Assembly as communications advisor, you want systems that will make it possible that if I should be the presenter of your program today and maybe malaria knocks me down, the program goes ahead at the same level.
Right.
You're looking for, to be honest, at the back of my mind was one phrase that only the best would be good for the president and for Ghana.
Right.
If I have to lose sleep and sleep just for 4 hours, and I told someone if I had to come to the presidency at 3 a.m. and sweep the floor, and that would make the president shine, I would do it quietly in the dark, whether anybody sees me or not, so that by the time people come to work at 8 in the morning, the place is and for me, it is the attitude of all Ghanaians. You want excellence, you want, you don't want to be a perfectionist, but at the same time, you want to believe that if we're going to catch up with Singapore, catch up with Malaysia, catch up with Korea, countries that were at the same level or even in a worse shape when we got political independence, every Ghanaian, we are far behind, even fellow African nations. Kenya, I was talking to a brother who was the chairman for the occasion in Kitasco yesterday, Mr. George Akolo, expert in developmental expertise, and he was in Kenya, serving the Kenyan government, an old student of Kitasco. Right. And I said, what are the Kenyans doing so well that we in Ghana don't do well?
Okay, so what was it?
You're constantly looking, and he said, oh, the Kenyans, they stick to planning.
No, let me bring you back to your work at the presidency,
right,
and the challenges that you talk about wanting to make sure that there are systems that work, that do not necessarily need the presence of a particular human being to work. Specifically, what do you mean with it?
No, I mean, you look around yourself, even when you're walking from the car park into the place, everything you have ever seen in London, in my time at the BBC, everything I had ever seen in New York, working at the United Nations, everything I had ever seen traveling and working with Mr. Kofi Annan when he was Secretary General, you want the same thing or even more or better in Ghana.
So you wanted the system that you were used to.
Don't say I'm used to.
Okay.
Because I want that excellence. I want that system that only the best would be good for Ghana. The presidency should be the right example. Sometimes you have to work with the president on speeches. You want to have the speeches to him by a certain time. You want to have people go through it so that when you look back, you can say, we did our absolute best.
Those things were not happening?
They were happening, but you want more of it. Okay, you want more of it. And I wasn't a perfectionist, but I came from a system in the BBC where we believed in continuous improvement. If you're the best TV presenter in Ghana, you're constantly looking at how you can still maintain your game, humble enough to absorb other skills to make to keep rising.
So what about what you're narrating brought about the low moments? Because I'm trying to look at the low moments for you at the presidency, working there in the capacity as a communications advisor.
They weren't very low moments. They were challenging moments. Moments
exactly, the challenging moments.
Moment where you aspired for more. You aspired for excellence.
Tell me about those moments.
Sometimes you're traveling. You want speeches to be done. You set yourself targets, and you're not able to meet them. Now, if you are not an expert on economics, then you have to planning even in communication, that we know that this is coming around 2 weeks from now. Independence Day, we will have speeches. So who do we get to get the drafts? You begin to get the plans and have a regimented system that produces the most excellent work for the president or the leader to use.
Why was that challenging?
Because we have a culture in our nation that we need to learn from. We need to move away from a culture where, again, I would say you push for excellence. And I gave the example of Komla Dumont. Komla stretched himself so well here in multimedia that you didn't, somehow, the world had to come to him. And
but you know, you still not really told me. You still not really told me.
I told you about speeches. I told you about speeches.
That's an example. So speeches.
Yes.
And what? So you say
sometimes there is a job that must be done, and the job must be done probably by 10 people.
Okay.
But you don't have the 10 people.
Okay.
Okay. So what must be done by 10 people? You have 2 dedicated, committed people trying to do that.
Right.
And it doesn't serve anybody the best in the end because the 2 people get overwhelmed. They don't get enough sleep. They don't have enough room to also learn new things.
So were you
But if
overwhelmed?
You have a team, no, that's not the word. It's not being overwhelmed. It's being able to have the resources, the personnel, bringing the right people on board to create that system of excellence that would serve the leader and serve Ghana very well.
Okay. Well, there have been rumors actually that some say you resigned, some say you were sacked, some say you weren't getting along with others who worked at the presidency, some say you exhausted your contracts and so you went back to the UN. Really, can you put a bit of clarity on that?
So you started with rumors.
Yes.
And as if I want to be a spokesperson, as I have been, you don't respond to rumors. If I answer one rumor now, how many other rumors, how many more rumors do I have to answer before I go? So I wouldn't dwell on it. The fact is I came, served for 1 year, and returned to the UN in New York. I wish I could have done more. I wish,
like
certain
what?
Things. No,
I mean, examples, so that, for instance, the new administration may learn a thing or two.
I'm sure they have learned already. when I saw what happened with the
speech,
inauguration,
the
yeah, I think somebody is learning, but sometimes you have to give people a chance. Once the mistakes are not deadly ones, terrible ones, if they are learning from it, every one of us, we want Ghana to do well.
Did you get along well with the people at the presidency?
As best as possible.
There
were many, many good people who were ready for us to join forces together, not in a one-man or one-woman fashion, so that we can put our skills together. No one person is the one reservoir of knowledge or skills. So you combine your skills with people. I saw when I was waiting for you to bring me here that my good friend Dr. Victor Bampo was on the program. He was one person I worked very well with because he is also passionate with that excellence. So there were many very good people. Dr. Raymond Atuguba was one of them. Many good people. So
did you work very well with Standogbe?
Yes.
How was the relationship?
Interestingly, we wouldn't have the time to get into the personal elements. Interestingly, he's an old student of Keta Secondary School. I know. So we did the best we could.
But there were rumors that you weren't really, the two of you weren't really getting along. Because he was also doing a bit of communication.
That is a rumor.
That is a rumor.
Yeah. Okay. The role that the president wanted me to play, I did my best to play that role. And I had some very good people who were willing and supportive for us to do the best, die a little. It's an issue of sacrificing, dying a little for the greater good.
Did you have any regrets coming in 2014?
I thought about this actually. And I concluded firmly in my own mind, in my own spirit, absolutely no regrets.
Absolutely no
It was a fantastic experience. I learned a lot. I wish I could have done more. And maybe if I can, there will be opportunities to use that experience for the good of others, to help others.
What was the one thing that you wanted to do that you couldn't do at the time that you worked there at the presidency?
Wow. What a question. To make the presidency and the way we were handling communication as good as what you will see in the White House or in Downing Street.
You couldn't get that done?
It's not, couldn't get it done. There were things to be done and you need time and you need people. And so it required a bit more time and other factors to be in place. But we tried. We did a whole lot of work.
Was the
applied our
president
efforts.
sad? Was the president sad that you were leaving when you left? Or,
Why don't you ask the president?
or did he? Well, it's very difficult to get through to the president. I don't think he's in the country at the moment.
One of these
But
days
since
we'll
we've
have
got
it.
you, was he? How did he feel?
I can only speak for myself. Maybe when you get the president, you can ask him. But it's let's say it wasn't the best for me to be leaving at the time that I had to go back to the UN, because I was also offered a new position. And you wanted him to succeed. And like I said, my objective for him was always, this president must succeed for the good of all of us, so that, like I said, anybody somewhere can say, this president's success has rubbed off on me,
Right.
and I'm doing better because people around him have helped him to succeed. So that was the motive.
What do you make of our recent elections and the way the elections went?
I was getting a lot of congratulatory messages from my international friends in New
Really?
York.
Oh,
you
about Ghana.
Ghanaians, you've done well. You always make us proud. You will be here in Accra. You probably pick it up on social media. Whether they were Nigerians, Kenyans, there was a sense of African pride among the people that were there. I was a bit concerned about the attacks on the Electoral Commission. I have 4 older sisters. They didn't get a chance to go to school at the time. So when somebody has excelled academically and is qualified and competent in a position, the least we could have done was to show respect for the office. So I was concerned, but she did a great job, and I hope that we keep on learning and improving, and we keep on pursuing excellence. We have work to do in Ghana, though.
What to do? What do you say about Ghana's politics right now? How far we've come with our politics. Now we've got a new government putting together, people that will form his government. They've started work. What do you make of the whole trend?
Let me mention one thing. We Ghanaians, we get in a bubble about ourselves. Let me say this. The way we relate in Ghana ethnically, other people, from what I have found out, other nations, other fellow Africans, think that we've got it all together. The fact that when you are contesting the SRC presidency in Legon, you don't have to specify your ethnic group, which is what happens in one major admirable African nation. We don't have that. We integrate. We should value the fact that we are very, very easily interconnected. Even with 25 million Ghanaians in London, in New York, you find us we should value that and never despise it. We should also stop talking negatively about ourselves all the time. In actual fact, when the plagiarism issue came, having been there before, the new head of communication, I felt for him. I said, if it's just one case, because I've been in situations of looking at speeches and you're looking at what to put in, and sometimes you fail to do the attribution. So my issue was, who discovered that this particular one portion was plagiarized? And I thought, but the more we sounded loud at home as Ghanaians, then the neighbors picked it up. I'm not saying things should not be exposed. But we can't keep quiet,
exactly.
I'm not saying let's keep quiet, but there is a way you go about it. But
well, now with social media and technology.
All I'm saying is there are many other areas where we are good. Put the plagiarism aside. We are good as Ghanaians in certain things, but we talk ourselves down. We magnify the minor things and diminish the major things. The kind of communication culture we have, people who go on radio, people who go on TV, are they the best people? Are you getting the best Ghanaians? Are you getting the Ghanaians who have created things, built schools, raised people, achieved something? Are they the ones setting the agenda? Or do we have people who are experts at talking? So we need to get Ghanaians of accomplishment, even those who have tried and failed, to set the agenda. I think we talk negatively a lot as Ghanaians. And for me, it's embarrassing when I meet a Liberian in New York and they say, when we move from Monrovia, we come to Accra, wow. And then I'm saying, we are saying there is too much dirt in Accra.
But there is too much dirt in Accra.
Yes, we want to do better, but whilst we're pursuing it, let's acknowledge some things that are good about us, not to get swollen-headed. We don't, look, Côte d'Ivoire, people from Côte d'Ivoire must come to Ghana and say, we are learning from you guys. People from Tanzania, Kenya, South Africa must come and say, okay, we've got this, but you have something better. We need to strive to be excellent. I don't even want to talk about people from London or New York coming to Ghana to say, you got it all together. But we are behind, and we need to work faster.
Harder.
We need to use excellence, and we need to push each other up, not bring people down.
Two last questions so that we can wrap this up. What will be your advice to the communications director at the presidency right now?
You think I qualify to give advice?
Well, you've been there before, so you've got some experience that he probably doesn't have. What would you tell him? Briefly, what would you tell him if you were to meet him right now? And the next question is, what is your relationship with the president, former president, John Mahama, at the moment?
Okay, let me ask. You know, in broadcasting, we tell people not to ask double-barrel questions because right now I can choose to answer one.
I will bring you back to answer them.
Let me answer the last one. I'm on good terms with the president.
Okay.
So that there is no problem at all. In terms of advice, there is something you and I learned in broadcasting. I used to go on air live at the BBC, and sometimes you cue the CD to play, Angelique Kidjo, Batonga, and suddenly the CD player ceases, and you're live on air, and you have to tell millions of Africans what they're doing. And sometimes you will make mistakes. Even in life, in whatever profession you are, even with the best of preparation and pursuing excellence, accept that there will be times when certain things will work against you. Now, here's the trick, which I was taught by my mentor at the BBC, Neil Curry. How you recover from that situation of the CD not playing, of some camera falling down, of some things you said not going, your response, and this has become a life lesson for me. You can decide to squeeze your face. Right now, you're asking me some tough questions. I can squeeze my face. But
and walk away, baby.
I can respond by taking it easy. Okay. How you respond. So you come back in the studio with this jammed CD player at the time, and you say, you laugh about it, and you crack a joke instead of feeling bad about yourself. So one thing, there will be mistakes, but how you respond and how you handle it will make a big difference. Number two, you don't know it all.
Okay.
Reach out for people who will come and join you, people who will mean well. And number three, some things will happen that would shock you. Because if your mind is set on, let's die a little, somebody else has a different agenda. And you have to learn to team up with those who will constantly help you to say there is a bigger issue out there. There are people dying in their front planes. No woman should die in childbirth. Whatever we are doing here has an impact directly on a girl child going to school. Right. And that's so, if you have that, and sometimes you have to keep a photo in your office, either of a Kayaye, to remind you you are in this office to serve, to make sure a Kayaye ceases to be a Kayaye, or somebody can say...
Kayaye is the plural, actually.
Okay.
Kayayo.
Yeah. So Kayayo is the
reason why you're helping.
So if you have those ideals and you team up with the right people, you push each other. You will not agree all the time, and you agree to disagree, but you keep on striving for the best, striving for excellence, and Ghana and the world will soon be the better place, and people will take notice.
Okay. Uncle Ben, like I used to call you, like I like to call you.
When you call me Uncle Ben, you make me feel very old.
Well, you are old in age, but you are young at heart.
Thank you.
Who was the one person you couldn't stand at the presidency before I let you go?
There were many, many people I could stand, and that made my day, I like
the few that you couldn't stand. Who
Even if somebody was there that I couldn't stand, it would be about probably the attitude. So it's not about calling names. It's more about attitudes I couldn't stand. Attitudes where we don't want to stretch a little bit more. Die a little for Ghana. People died for us to have this opportunity to serve. People died for nothing. They got no money. They've got no land. They bought no houses. They sacrificed for us to be where we are. We need to build on that. We need to die a little. Don't die completely. Just die a little.
Okay. Well, I'll take that as a cue. I'll put that in my knee, as we say, and perhaps it will be a lifelong principle that I hold on to. Thank you very much, Uncle Ben, for coming through. Ben Dotse Malor works with the UN now, used to work with the BBC, and was a communications advisor to President John Mahama, also spokesperson for the president as well. He says he's got a fantastic relationship with the president now. I'll get some more details behind the scenes, but we'll say very big thanks to you for coming through. This is The Pulse.